Do you believe a stranger can sit beside you for months and you never notice it's not human? I didn't believe it either. Not until last winter. Chapter 1. The Escape. Let me start from the beginning. You need to understand the silence before you can understand the scream. Last October, I packed my entire life into the back of a rusted pickup truck and drove north. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to be away from the city, away from the divorce papers sitting on my kitchen table, and away from the noise of a life that had fallen apart. I bought a cabin in a place called Blackwood Ridge on the coast of Maine. It wasn't a vacation home. It was a hideout. The realtor told me, "It gets lonely out there, son. The nearest neighbor is 3 miles down the road. And the winters, they don't just get cold, they get quiet." I told him, quiet is exactly what I'm paying for. I was wrong. There is a difference between the quiet of an empty room and the quiet of the Maine woods. The forest behind my cabin. The locals call it the wall. Looking at it, you can see why. The pine trees are so old and so thick that sunlight doesn't touch the ground. It's just a wall of black and green, stretching for miles. For the first month, I didn't see a single soul. I developed a routine. I chopped wood until my hands blistered. I fixed the roof. And at night, I would drink. I built a fire pit in the backyard, about 20 yards from the tree line. Every night, no matter how cold it got, I'd sit out there. Just me, a bottle of whiskey, and the fire. I thought I was alone out there. I really did. But looking back now, I think something was watching me from the very first night. Chapter 2. The Presence. The feeling started around November. You know that sensation when you're in a crowded room and you feel eyes on the back of your neck? Imagine feeling that when you are the only human being for 10 miles. It started with small things. I'd wake up in the morning and find my woodpile knocked over. I'd find tracks in the frost. At first, I told myself it was a bear, or maybe a moose, but the tracks were odd. They were heavy, deep, but the stride was too long for a bear walking on 2 legs. And they always stopped at the edge of the clearing, like whatever made them was hesitating. One night, I was sitting by the fire, listening to the wood crackle. The fog was rolling in off the ocean, thick and heavy. Visibility was 0. I was 3 drinks in, humming along to some old song on the radio. And then the radio signal died. Just static, and silence. Even the crickets stopped. The woods went completely dead. That's when I heard it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, on the dry leaves. It wasn't an animal scurrying. It was something walking with purpose. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stared into the darkness, straining my eyes. "Hello?" I called out. My voice shook. No answer, just the wind. I convinced myself I was losing my mind. Isolation sickness, they call it. I went inside, locked the door, and slept with a baseball bat next to my bed. If I had known what was actually standing in the dark that night, I don't think I would have ever slept again. Chapter 3. The First Contact. A week later, it finally revealed itself. I was drunker than usual that night. It was a Tuesday, I think. The cold was biting, sinking right into your bones. I was staring at the fire, lost in bad memories, when I heard the steps again. This time, they didn't stop at the tree line. They got closer, and closer, and closer. I didn't turn around. Couldn't. I was frozen. Part of me accepted that this was it. This was how I died. An axe murderer, a bear, a ghost. Take your pick. The footsteps stopped right behind my wooden bench. I smelled it before I saw it. It didn't smell like death. It smelled like ancient earth, like wet pine bark, rain, and iron. Then the bench groaned. The wood creaked violently as something massive sat down on the other end. I slowly turned my head. The firelight was dim, casting long, dancing shadows. Sitting 3 feet away from me was a figure. It was hunched over, wrapped in shadows. It looked like a man wearing a thick, oversized coat, but the proportions were wrong. The shoulders were too wide. The head sat too low on the chest. But the alcohol gave me a stupid, reckless courage. I figured if it wanted to kill me, I'd be dead already. "Cold night," I mumbled. The figure didn't move. It just sat there, staring into the fire. Then, a sound came from its chest. A low, rumbling grunt. It vibrated through the wooden bench into my own spine. We sat there for an hour, neither of us moving. I drank my whiskey. It watched the flames. When the fire died down, I stood up to leave. My legs were shaking. "I'm heading in," I said, like I was talking to a roommate. I expected it to attack. Instead, it just nodded, a stiff, slow tilt of its massive head. I walked to my back door, waiting for claws to grab me. They never did. When I looked back from the window, the bench was empty. Chapter 4: The Routine. That became our routine. Every night, around 10 p.m., I started calling him he, would arrive. He never spoke. I did all the talking. I told him about my ex-wife. I told him about my job at the factory. I told him about how much I hated the city. He was the best listener I ever had. I started leaving things for him. One night, I left a raw steak on the bench before I came out. When he arrived, he sniffed it. Then, in one motion, he swallowed it whole. I didn't see him chew. The next night, I found something on the bench waiting for me. Pine cone, perfectly preserved. The night after that, a dead crow, neatly placed. It was a trade, a gift for a gift. I tried to get a good look at his face, but he always kept to the shadows, or turned away when the fire flared up. But I saw his hands. One night I dropped my lighter. He reached down to pick it up. His hand was twice the size of mine. Dark, leathery skin. And the fingers, they didn't have fingernails. They had thick, black claws, blunt but powerful. He handed me the lighter gently. His skin was warm, feverishly warm. I should have been terrified. I know that. But out there, in the deep winter, loneliness is scarier than a monster. He wasn't a monster to me. He was just a neighbor. We spent Christmas Eve together. I drank eggnog. He sat in silence. It was the most peaceful Christmas I'd had in years. But peace doesn't last forever. Chapter 5: The Intrusion. It was February, the worst blizzard of the year. The wind was howling so loud I didn't hear the car pull up down the road. I was inside, reading. My visitor hadn't come that night. The storm was too bad, I thought. Then, glass shattered. The sound exploded in my living room. I scrambled off the couch, knocking over my lamp. Darkness swallowed the room. "Is anyone home?" A voice shouted. Rough, aggressive. Flashlight beams cut through the dark. 2 men, ski masks, crowbars. They weren't looking for a fight. They were looking for things to steal. But when they saw me, they smiled. "Grab him," one of them said. I ran for the back door, but I tripped. One of them kicked me in the ribs. I gasped, curling into a ball. They laughed. They started smashing my things, looking for cash. I lay on the floor, bleeding, listening to them destroy the only sanctuary I had left. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end. And then, the house shook, not from the wind. Something had slammed into the back deck. Hard. The burglars stopped. What was that? Then came the growl. It wasn't the low grunt I was used to. This was a sound of pure, primal rage. It sounded like rocks grinding together deep underground. The sliding glass door didn't just open. It exploded inward. The wind roared into the room, bringing the snow with it. And standing in the frame, filling the entire doorway, was him. For the first time, I saw him fully illuminated by the intruder's flashlights. He stood 7 feet tall, covered in matted, dark fur, teeth like jagged knives. His eyes were glowing yellow. The burglar nearest to me screamed. It was a high, thin sound. "Bear! It's a bear!" he yelled. It wasn't a bear. My visitor moved faster than anything that size should move. He crossed the room in a blur. Chapter 6: The Aftermath and the Stone. I covered my head. I didn't watch. I heard sounds I can't describe. Wet, tearing sounds, heavy thuds, and then the sound of something being dragged across the floorboards. One of the men managed to jump out the window and run. I never saw the other one again. When the sheriff arrived an hour later, I was sitting on my porch, wrapped in a blanket. They found blood, a lot of it, but no body. They tracked footprints into the woods for 3 miles until they just vanished. "Must have been a mountain lion," the sheriff said, though he looked pale. "Or a pack of wolves." I didn't correct him. I stayed in the cabin. I cleaned up the glass. I fixed the door, but he didn't come back. 3 nights passed, then a week. The bench sat empty. On the 10th morning, I went out to check the fire pit. The snow was undisturbed, except for one set of massive footprints leading up to the bench and then leading away back into the wall. Sitting on the bench was a stone. It was smooth, gray river rock. I picked it up. It was heavy. On one side, clumsy, jagged scratches were etched into the surface. It looked like a child had written it or someone struggling to control massive strength. It didn't say goodbye. It read Friend. That was 2 months ago. The snow is melting now. I still sit out there every night. I still light the fire. Sometimes, when the wind dies down, I hear branches snapping deep in the woods. I hear that heavy, slow breathing. I know he's watching. I know he's out there. And for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of the dark anymore, because I know what lives in it. And I know I'm not alone.